Hello everyone, this is Jake from Paranormal, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about the differences between the Ouija board, the spirit box, and EVP. Now, looking at the title and hearing that, you'd probably think, well, there's a few obvious differences, but what I'm going to talk about mainly in this video is the differences in impact it has on us, the investigators. Now, the Ouija board, it's very infamous. And it's always cursed, or there's always a demon attached to it, mainly the Zozo demon phenomena. Now, I've used a Ouija board twice in my life, and one time, a few things happened, but not really enough to, call it concrete. But every time I've used the Ouija board to kind of verify that it's actual paranormal activity happening, what I'll do is I'll set up a K2 meter close to the planchette. Now, what that does is whenever the planchette starts to move, if it's one of us, then in theory, it wouldn't go off. That way, okay, it's one of the people at the table making the planchette move. It's fake. But if the planchette starts moving and the K2 meter starts lighting up, then that partially verifies that there might be a spirit manipulating it. Unless, someone's moving it and they're causing vibrations on the floor, on the table, wherever you're using it, then that can give you a false positive reading. But the main difference, let's start off between the Ouija board and EVP. Now, Ouija board, of course, you communicate by putting your hands on the planchette and then asking questions. The spirits move it around, different the letter. Or in some cases, which is what they actually, in the early days, kind of believed it for, is the spirits would choose one person, or sometimes they would choose the entire group if spirit was strong enough, and they would, control the group or control the person to move the planchette to a specific letter. So yeah, you can say, okay, it's a person moving it, obviously, but are they moving it to fake it to get, stir up some excitement? Or are they in a trance-like state and a spirit is temporarily taking control of them and making them move the planchette to that letter? So that's the very tough thing about the Ouija board in terms of verifying what's real and what's not. But the big difference between Ouija board and spirit box, one, the obvious, you can't record Ouija board stuff on its own unless you have an external camera, camcorder, something like that. But the big difference for me, I think, is the biggest, and it's also the biggest difference between the Ouija board and the spirit box and EVP, is for the most part, you don't have a direct physical connection to the voice recorders of the spirit box like you do the Ouija board. Now, for a lot of sessions, you are holding the equipment, whether it's, your little voice recorder, your phone, the PSP7 spirit box, whatever you're using, you are holding it, but there's a bit of a go-between. You have that box, that device, that phone, that electronical piece of equipment that's kind of almost acting as like a buffer between the connection between you and a direct connection to the spirit, as to where with the planchette, the Ouija board, your body's energy is the direct connection. You are directly connected to the thing the spirit is trying to manipulate. And, some people believe that the whole idea is to get a spirit to manipulate your hands. So by manipulating your hands, it's manipulating a part of you. And that is sometimes what leads to possession. One big common misconception is regular spirits can't possess people, which that is untrue. Sure, elemental entities, demonic entities, they can possess. Poltergeist entities, if they truly wanted to, they could. But regular spirits, they can do a light version of possession. Now, with regular spirits, it's more temporary. It doesn't have necessarily the long-term effects that something like a demonic possession would, but it can still happen. And so when you're asking an entity to move the planchette, you're giving it basically, a doorway to saying, hey, physically, manipulate my energy, a part of my body, which, unless you use the right protection, it won't be isolated to just your hands. It could go up the body into your brain, and then that's when you go full-on possession, Hollywood style. But with Spirit Box, it's more interesting because, a lot of times you are holding it and you are asking them to speak into the devices. You're not asking them to touch the same thing you're touching, the same thing that your physical energy is connected to. So that is the big difference between the Ouija board versus the EVP recorder and the Spirit Box. So what are your thoughts on all of this? Do you think that even though you're holding the voice recorder, you still have that direct connection, almost like when you're touching a planchette? Or do you think that because there's that, I guess, buffer between the spirit and you, that the energy and potential energy it would use to possess you is absorbed semi into the device? I hope you all have enjoyed this video. This is Jake from 5 Paranormal. Have a great day, everyone.